Ethan never thought life would lead him here. When he was a boy, aliens were something from movies, far away and unreal. But now, in his small college dorm room, one sat right across from him. Her name was Lyra. She wasn't human, not even close, and yet somehow she felt more familiar than most people he had ever met. The first day they met was awkward. Ethan had walked in carrying his boxes of clothes and books, expecting some shy freshman with messy hair and bad posture. Instead, he froze in the doorway. There she was, tall, graceful, with skin that shimmered faintly blue under the light and eyes like molten silver. Her hair was black but carried streaks of violet that seemed to catch the light in strange ways. She was sitting cross-legged on the bed, studying a glowing tablet in a language Ethan couldn't even begin to understand. When she noticed him, she tilted her head in a way no human would. It wasn't judgmental, just curious. "You are Ethan?" she asked. Her voice was soft, musical, with an echo like two notes played at once. Ethan blinked and stammered, Yeah, that's me." He tried not to stare, but how could he not? She wasn't just alien, she was otherworldly. He felt small, clumsy, and painfully ordinary. She, on the other hand, looked like someone who belonged in a painting or maybe a dream. But then she smiled. And suddenly she wasn't so intimidating anymore. Her silver eyes crinkled a little, her posture relaxed, and she said, "Then we are to share this space. I will try not to disturb you." It was such a simple promise, but Ethan found himself nodding and smiling back. Same here. Life with Lyra was strange at first. She didn't understand human habits. She stared at his posters, asked why he had so many pairs of shoes, and once spent 30 minutes just watching him butter toast. "You put fire-cooked seed paste on heated grain bread," she said with awe, as if he were performing magic. But it wasn't all one-sided. Ethan found himself fascinated by her as well. She had containers of glowing stones that pulsed when she touched them, strange snacks that smelled like cinnamon and metal, and a way of humming quietly whenever she was focused. Her people, the Erithani, were known for their intelligence and beauty. But Ethan realized something quickly. She was also just a person. She complained about their heavy class schedules. She hated waking up early. She muttered whenever the shower water was too cold. And when she thought he wasn't looking, she stole his chips, crunching on them like it was a crime she couldn't resist committing. One night, while he sat hunched over his laptop trying to finish a paper, she whispered, "You are very loud when you type." Ethan groaned. "That's because my brain only works when I smash the keys really hard." She blinked at him. Then slowly her lips curved into a grin. "You are strange," she said, and he laughed until his stomach hurt. Over time, their friendship grew. It was small things at first. She would ask for help pronouncing English words, her accent lilting and careful. He would show her earth music, and she would sit in silence, eyes closed, swaying slightly to the rhythm. Sometimes she would hum in return, sharing songs from her people, melodies that sounded like stars falling. Ethan never admitted it out loud, but he started to look forward to seeing her every day. He would notice when she was quiet, when her eyes lost their shine, when she missed home. And in those moments, he would crack a stupid joke or offer her another snack, or just sit nearby in silence so she wouldn't feel alone. Because she was more than an alien roommate now. She was his roommate, his friend. And in the quiet of the dorm, as city lights glowed outside and the sound of laughter echoed faintly from other rooms, Ethan realized something. For all the vast differences between their worlds, he and Lyra were figuring out how to share the same little space, the same little life. Maybe that was the strangest part. Not that he lived with an alien, but that living with her didn't feel strange at all. Life with Lyra had started to feel almost normal. Ethan didn't think twice anymore about seeing her strange glowing notes spread across the desk, or hearing her soft hums when she concentrated. She had even started wearing oversized hoodies he lent her, the fabric hanging loosely on her tall frame, making her look oddly human and not so distant. But sometimes, reminders of her alien nature came in unexpected ways. One evening, after dinner, they sat together in the dorm. Ethan was scrolling on his laptop, pretending to study, while Lyra was stretched across her bed with a notebook balanced on her knees. Her silver eyes reflected the faint glow of her tablet as she scribbled notes in both English and her native script, the flowing symbols looking like constellations drawn on paper. Out of nowhere, she asked, "Ethan, how do humans show love?" Ethan's fingers froze on the keyboard. He turned, blinking at her. What do you mean? Her tone was serious, her silver gaze fixed on him. Among my people there are many rituals for affection. Some are for friendship, others for family, and a few for partners. I am trying to understand humans. How do you tell another human that they matter to you? He laughed awkwardly. That's a big question, is it? She tilted her head. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. Well, it depends. Some people say it with words. Some show it with hugs or kisses. Others, I don't know, they just spend time together. Bring gifts. Do nice things. Lyra wrote something in her notebook, lips pressed together as if she were collecting data. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You're taking notes? Her cheeks, well, the alien equivalent, shifted into a faint glow, a bluish tint across her skin. It was the Arathani version of blushing. I'm only studying, she said quickly. Ethan chuckled. Sure you are. But deep down, her sudden curiosity left him unsettled. The next day, she grew even stranger. While walking back from class, she asked him questions like, if a human wanted to show affection, would giving food be correct? Or is that too simple? He shrugged. Food works. I mean, who doesn't like free food? Later, when they studied together, she leaned close and asked softly, do humans find eye contact important when speaking about feelings? Ethan nearly choked on his drink. Yeah, usually. Why are you asking all this? Her silver eyes darted away. No reason, but Ethan wasn't convinced. She was hiding something, and that made him nervous in a way he couldn't explain. That evening, while Ethan was trying to unwind with some music, Lyra sat down across from him with a serious expression. She placed her glowing bowl of dust, something he had seen before but never questioned, on the desk between them. Ethan, she said carefully, there is something I want to try. A ritual of my people, it is. A way to test affection. Ethan blinked. A ritual? She nodded. On Erethan, when someone wishes to show another what is in their heart, they use the binding dust. It allows emotions to be shared directly. Not words, not gestures, truth. His eyebrows rose. You mean, like I'd feel what you feel? And you would let me feel what you feel if you allow it, she said softly. Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke. It is safe, but very personal. That is why it is sacred. Ethan sat back, trying to process. He wasn't sure if it was real science or just some alien tradition. Either way, the way she looked at him, hopeful, nervous, vulnerable, made his chest tighten. You want to try it? On me? He asked slowly. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Only if you agree. I would never force it. Ethan chuckled nervously, scratching his head. Well, I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right? Her silver eyes brightened, reflecting the faint glow of the dust. She clasped her hands together, almost relieved. Then tomorrow night, we will do it properly. And for the rest of the evening, Ethan tried to convince himself that it was nothing serious. Just a cultural thing. Just curiosity. But as he lay in bed later, staring at the ceiling while the faint sound of her humming filled the room, he couldn't stop thinking about it. Why had her voice trembled when she asked? Why did her eyes look like she was holding back something she couldn't say aloud? And why, deep down, did the thought of sharing her emotions scare him more than anything else? The following evening, the dorm room felt different. Ethan couldn't explain why. The same lamp glowed on the desk, the same hum of the radiator filled the background, but there was a weight in the air, something heavy with expectation. Lyra was quiet all day. She barely spoke during class, answered his jokes with distracted smiles, and avoided his gaze whenever he tried to catch her eyes. Ethan knew her well enough to realize she was nervous. Strangely, that only made him nervous too. When night finally came, she asked him softly, "Are you ready?" He laughed, though it sounded shaky even to his own ears. "As ready as I'll ever be, I guess." She nodded and moved with a kind of reverence, as though preparing for something sacred. From her drawer, she pulled out a small bowl filled with faintly glowing dust. The particles shimmered like fragments of stars, pulsing gently with a bluish-white light. Ethan leaned closer, fascinated. "What is that stuff, really?" he asked. "Binding dust," she answered. "It is taken from the crystal fields of my homeworld. It responds to thought and intention. It listens." Ethan raised a brow. "It listens?" She gave him a small smile, but her voice was serious. "It does not speak, but it will show truth." She dimmed the lights until the room was washed only in the pale glow of the dust. Then she sat on the floor, cross-legged, motioning for him to sit across from her. Ethan obeyed, though his heart pounded like a drum in his chest. "Hold out your hands," she whispered. He hesitated, then slowly extended his palms. She sprinkled a pinch of the dust across them. The particles clung to his skin, soft as silk but warm, almost alive. He gasped quietly as faint glimmers pulsed beneath his fingers. Lyra placed her own hands into the bowl and then reached forward, pressing her palms gently against his. Her skin was cool at first, then warmed quickly under his touch. The dust shimmered brighter, crawling across their joined hands like glowing veins of light. "This is the beginning," she murmured. "Do not fight it. Let it flow." Ethan opened his mouth to ask what exactly he was supposed to feel, but then it hit him. A rush of sensation, not physical, but emotional. It wasn't his own heartbeat he felt. It was hers. He knew it instinctively. Her emotions poured into him like water into dry soil. Loneliness. Longing. A deep ache of being far from home, surrounded by strangers who didn't understand her. He felt her quiet fears that she was different, that she didn't belong, that maybe no one would ever really see her. The feelings were so sharp that Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His vision blurred with tears that weren't his own. Then came something else. Warmth. Hope. And beneath it, something fragile but strong. Something she was terrified to admit. The way she looked at him. The way he mattered to her. He wasn't just a roommate to her. Not just a friend. He was proof that connection was possible even across species and worlds. Ethan's chest tightened painfully. He wanted to say something, but words felt meaningless compared to what he was feeling. The dust pulsed brighter, and suddenly he felt her memories. Lyra as a child, standing on a hill of glowing crystals while other children laughed without her. Lyra being warned by her elders not to grow too close to humans. They were too fragile, too shallow, too quick to betray. Lyra walking into their shared dorm for the first time, seeing him smile nervously at her, and feeling a spark of something she didn't understand but wanted to keep. It was overwhelming, beautiful, terrifying. Ethan pulled back suddenly, breaking the contact. The dust scattered, the glow dimming around them. He sat there breathing hard, his palms trembling. Across from him, Lyra's silver eyes widened, then lowered. The faint glow along her cheeks faded as she whispered, almost too softly to hear, "I see." "Lyra," he started, but the words died in his throat. She pulled her hands back, folding them tightly in her lap. Her voice shook. "It was foolish of me to ask this of you. I should not have." "No, it's not that." Ethan tried to explain, but his own panic made it worse. He didn't even understand his feelings. All he knew was that she had shown him everything, and he wasn't sure if he was ready to give the same back. She turned away, shoulders tense, her voice almost breaking. "Forgive me." The silence that followed felt heavier than anything Ethan had ever experienced. The ritual had ended, but something else had cracked open between them, something that wouldn't be easy to close. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the city outside the window. Across the room, Lyra's silhouette was turned away from him, her breathing slow and steady, but he knew she wasn't asleep either. His chest was heavy. The memory of her emotions still clung to him. Loneliness, fear, the fragile thread of hope she had placed in him. And then the worst part, the way she had looked when he pulled away. Her silver eyes dimming, her voice trembling with shame. He had hurt her. Not with words, but with silence. The next morning, Lyra acted like nothing happened. She woke early, dressed quickly, and left for class before Ethan could even sit up in bed. No humming, no casual teasing about his messy hair. Nothing. When they met again later in the cafeteria, she nodded politely at him, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. She sat with other exchange students, speaking in her soft alien tongue, leaving Ethan staring at his untouched tray of food. He told himself it was fine. Maybe this was for the best. Maybe they could just go back to being normal roommates. But every time he remembered the feel of her emotions rushing through him, every time he remembered that glimpse of how much he mattered to her, his stomach twisted with guilt. Days passed, and the silence between them grew. They spoke only about practical things. Who would take out the trash? When to turn off the lights? Which side of the desk belonged to who? Ethan hated it. He missed her laughter, her endless questions, even the way she stole his chips when she thought he wasn't looking. The room felt colder without her warmth, emptier without her humming. One evening, as he sat at his desk pretending to work, he noticed her by the window. She was staring at the stars, her silver eyes distant, her shoulders slumped. There was a sadness in her posture that made his chest ache. Before he could stop himself, he spoke. "Lyra, are you okay?" She didn't turn around. Her voice was soft, almost flat. "I will apply for a transfer. It will be easier for both of us," Ethan froze. "A transfer? You mean move out?" "Yes." Her hand tightened against the window frame. "I do not wish to burden you. You should not have to endure complications. Humans prefer simplicity." Her words stung more than he expected. "Complications?" he repeated quietly. She turned then, her silver gaze shimmering faintly in the dim light. "I showed you what should have remained hidden. That was my mistake. I asked too much of you. It is not fair." Ethan's throat went dry. He wanted to tell her she was wrong, that he didn't think of her as a burden, that he didn't regret seeing what was inside her heart. But the words tangled in his chest, caught between fear and honesty. So he said nothing. And in that silence he saw her expression fall even further, like a candle being snuffed out. She turned back to the window, whispering something in her own language. Words he didn't understand but felt deeply. They carried the weight of goodbye. That night Ethan lay awake again, torn apart by his own cowardice. He remembered the warmth of her touch, the shimmer of the dust, the raw truth of her emotions pouring into him. She had trusted him with her most sacred ritual, and he had pulled away. He told himself he wasn't ready, that he didn't know what to do with feelings so strong, so real. But another voice inside him whispered the truth. He was afraid. Afraid of what it meant. Afraid of how much she already meant to him, but if he let her leave, if he let her slip away now, then he would never forgive himself. The next evening, when she returned from class, her bag heavy with books, Ethan tried to speak. "Lyra," but she cut him off with a polite nod, her voice calm, distant. "I will have the transfer papers completed by the end of the week." Ethan stood there, frozen, watching as she turned away, her shoulders stiff, her silver eyes avoiding his. And in that moment, he realized something painful. This wasn't just about her ritual. It was about trust. She had trusted him with her heart, and he had broken that trust with his silence. The conflict wasn't between them. It was inside him. And if he didn't find the courage to face it soon, he would lose her forever. The silence between Ethan and Lyra was louder than any argument could have been. It wasn't angry silence. It was the kind that crept in slowly, filling every corner of the room, pressing down on his chest until he could hardly breathe. They still lived together, still shared the same four walls, but it felt like an invisible wall stood between them now. Ethan sat at his desk, staring at blank documents he couldn't bring himself to type. Lyra sat on her bed, reading her glowing scripts, but the soft hum she used to sing under her breath was gone. He missed it. He missed her. At first, Ethan tried to ignore it. Maybe if he gave her space, things would go back to normal. But days stretched into weeks and nothing changed. They spoke only when necessary. "The laundry is done." The food delivery came. The professor extended the deadline. Their voices were calm, polite, distant. Each word felt like a knife. One night, Ethan caught her sitting at the desk with her transfer forms open on the screen. His stomach dropped. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he lingered in the doorway like a coward until she closed the laptop and turned away. That night he lay awake again, listening to the rhythm of her breathing. He remembered when she used to ask him strange questions about humans, when she used to laugh at his dumb jokes, when she used to steal chips from his bag with a mischievous smile. The room had felt alive then. Now it felt hollow. It wasn't just loneliness, it was guilt. He couldn't forget the look in her eyes during the ritual, the shimmer of hope, the vulnerability she had shown him. She had opened her heart, shared her deepest fears, and he had recoiled. She must have felt exposed, ashamed, foolish, and now she carried that weight in silence, pretending she was fine. Ethan hated himself for it. He told himself he wasn't ready, that he didn't know how to handle emotions so raw and powerful. But the truth gnawed at him. He was afraid of what it meant to matter so much to someone else, afraid of what he might feel in return. Yet the longer he stayed silent, the clearer it became. His fear wasn't protecting him. It was breaking them both. One evening, he came back early from class. The dorm was quiet except for the faint hum of the heater. Lyra was by the window, her silver eyes fixed on the night sky. The stars reflected in her gaze, but she looked small, fragile in a way he had never seen before. Ethan hesitated, then spoke softly. Lyra, she didn't turn. Yes, you're thinking about home again? A long pause. Then she nodded, still staring out. Yes, sometimes I wonder if I made a mistake coming here. Perhaps I do not belong. Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to tell her she did belong, that she had made his life brighter, that he couldn't imagine this place without her. But the words stuck again, trapped by his own fear. So instead he only said, I don't think that's true. She gave him a small, tired smile, but her eyes said otherwise. The days blurred together. Ethan forced himself through lectures, through meals, through studying. But every time he returned to the dorm, the weight of silence crushed him. He tried small gestures, offering her snacks, playing music she liked, even leaving a silly drawing on her desk. But she only responded with polite gratitude. No laughter. No teasing, it wasn't enough. One night, as he watched her pack some of her belongings into a small case, panic clawed at him. She was really leaving. The transfer wasn't just an idea, it was happening. He opened his mouth, desperate to stop her. But once again, fear held him back. What if she didn't want to hear it? What if it only made things worse? So he said nothing. And that silence was the cruelest thing of all. But as Ethan lay awake later that night, staring at the faint glow of her belongings on the other side of the room, a realization struck him. The problem wasn't that he didn't care. The problem was that he cared too much. Enough to be terrified. Enough to run. And if he didn't find his courage soon, the silence would become permanent. She would leave. He would lose her. And he would never forgive himself. Ethan knew he was running out of time. Every day, Lyra grew more distant. Every day, the bag by her bed grew heavier with folded clothes and neatly stacked belongings. The transfer was no longer just a thought. It was real. And soon she would be gone. The silence between them pressed on him like a weight he couldn't bear. He thought about the first time she laughed at his dumb typing joke. The way she hummed strange melodies while studying. The glow in her silver eyes when she asked about human ways of showing love. He thought about all of it and his chest ached. He couldn't let her leave. Not like this. That evening, when he returned from class, she was sitting by the window again. The stars outside scattered like diamonds, and their faint glow painted her features in silver and blue. She looked peaceful, but there was sadness in her eyes, the kind of sadness that comes from preparing to say goodbye. Ethan stood there for a long time, fighting with himself. Fear still clung to him. Fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of exposing his own heart. But then another thought broke through. If he stayed silent now, he would regret it for the rest of his life. So he walked forward and sat beside her. Lyra, he said softly. She didn't look at him. Yes, he took a deep breath. I don't want you to leave. That made her pause. Slowly, she turned her head, her silver eyes narrowing in confusion. It is better for both of us. You do not need complications. Stop saying that, Ethan blurted out. His voice shook, but he pushed on. You're not a complication. You're my friend. More than that, you're the best thing that's happened to me since I came here. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came. He swallowed hard, his palms sweaty. That night, the ritual, I pulled away because I was scared. Not because I didn't care, but because I felt so much so fast and I didn't know how to handle it. Her eyes softened, though doubt still lingered. You felt it? She whispered. Yes. His voice cracked, but he didn't stop. I felt everything you showed me. Your loneliness, your hope, and how much I mattered to you. It hit me harder than anything ever has. I wasn't ready and I messed up. But Lyra, he reached for her hand, hesitated, then finally took it gently. I don't want to lose you. For a moment, she didn't move. Her silver eyes shimmered as if searching for lies. Then slowly, her fingers curled around his. You are certain? She asked. Her voice was fragile, trembling. Humans often speak lightly of such things. Ethan shook his head. I'm not speaking lightly. I may not know exactly what I'm doing, but I know this. When you're gone, everything feels empty. When you're here, the world feels brighter. And if that means things are complicated, then I'll take complicated. I'll take all of it. Tears welled in her eyes. Real, shimmering tears that reflected the starlight. She let out a shaky laugh, a sound that was part joy, part disbelief. "You are strange, Ethan," she whispered, her voice breaking, "but wonderfully strange." He squeezed her hand tighter, afraid that if he let go, she would vanish. "Stay," he said softly, "please. Stay with me." For the first time in weeks, her smile reached her eyes. It was small, but it carried warmth and relief that spread through the room like light. "I will stay," she murmured, "if you truly wish it." "I do," Ethan said firmly. The silence that followed was different this time. Not heavy, not painful. It was the kind of silence that wrapped around them gently, full of unspoken promises. Lyra leaned her forehead against his, her silver eyes closing. "You humans," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "You love with such fire. It frightens me." Ethan smiled through the tightness in his chest. "It scares me too, but maybe that's what makes it real." And for the first time since the ritual, he didn't feel fear. He felt something else, something steady, strong, and alive. That night, Ethan lay in bed while Lyra's soft humming returned to the room. The sound filled the silence, not with distance, but with closeness. He closed his eyes, listening, knowing he had made his choice. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But he knew this: she wasn't leaving, not now. Not ever, if he could help it. The next evening, the dorm room no longer felt heavy. The silence that had once been sharp and painful was now soft, almost comforting. Ethan sat cross-legged on the floor, nervous but steady as Lyra prepared the small bowl of glowing dust again. This time she didn't hide her trembling hands. And this time, Ethan didn't hesitate. She looked at him once more as if giving him a chance to change his mind. "Ethan, are you certain? The ritual will not lie. Whatever is inside you, I will see, and you will see me again." He nodded, his throat tight but his voice firm. "That's what I want." Her silver eyes softened and she whispered, "Then we begin." She poured a small pinch of dust into his palms, just as before. The warmth spread instantly, crawling across his skin like tiny sparks. He remembered how overwhelming it had felt the first time, how he had panicked and pulled away. But now, instead of fear, he felt anticipation. Lyra placed her hands into the bowl, then pressed her palms against his. The dust shimmered brighter than before, wrapping around their joined hands like strands of starlight. And then it came. The flood of emotion. Ethan felt her again. Her loneliness, her longing, her fear of being different. But now, woven into it all, was something stronger. Hope, trust, and a steady warmth that was directed only at him. Her heart, laid bare. He swallowed hard, blinking against the tears burning his eyes. But this time he didn't retreat. He opened himself. He let his own feelings flow. The dust pulsed brighter, wrapping their fingers in a halo of light. Lyra gasped softly as Ethan's emotions reached her. She felt his guilt, his fear of hurting her, his restless nights of silence. She felt his laughter at her strange questions, his quiet joy in sharing snacks with her, the admiration he never dared to say aloud. And beneath it all, deep and unshakable, she felt the truth. He cared, more than he had ever admitted even to himself. Her silver eyes widened, shimmering with tears. You truly—" "Yes," Ethan whispered, voice rough with emotion. "I do. I was too scared to admit it, but I do." The dust flared brilliantly as if it recognized their honesty. Tiny sparks lifted into the air, floating around them like fireflies. For a moment, the entire dorm looked like a sky full of stars. Lyra leaned forward until her forehead rested gently against his. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Humans, you love so fiercely. It feels like fire. I thought it would burn me, but it only warms." Ethan smiled, his eyes closing as he held her hands tighter. "Guess we're not as fragile as your people thought." She let out a shaky laugh, a sound filled with relief and joy. "No, you are not fragile. You are stronger than I imagined." For the first time since she arrived on Earth, her posture relaxed completely. No fear, no distance, only closeness. The ritual ended slowly, the dust fading until only a faint glow lingered on their skin. But the bond remained. They didn't need the light to feel it anymore. They sat together in silence, hands still joined, breathing in sync. It wasn't the silence of distance. It was the silence of understanding, of connection too deep for words. Finally, Ethan broke it with a small laugh. You know, if anyone walks in right now, they're going to think we set off some weird science experiment. Lyra smiled, her silver eyes sparkling. Then let them think so. The truth is ours.